Hello. Hello, everybody. So this evening, um, I'm actually going to show you guys a dessert, snack, sweet tooth fixer, and then there will be leftover that we will save for breakfast in the morning. And this is one of my favorite things. And I actually got the grains to make this from my friend Dr. Caitlin. It's at Dr._Caitlin. She's out in Wyoming. So these grains, it's Farro, were actually grown out there in Wyoming. So it's not Italian grown, these are Wyoming grown grains. So what we're going to make this evening is a pudding, a Farro pudding, and we're going to use some of our home canned apples. This, I promise you, is better than oatmeal. It's one of my favorite things. So the first thing I got to do is grab my jar opener and a spoon. You can see these were from 21. So a lot of people are afraid to keep their canned goods for very long. Don't be. If your jars are sealed and you've stored them with the rings off, you don't have to be afraid of your canned goods. I'm going to cut these in half is why I'm taking them out of the jar like this. You could leave them whole if you want to. I like to break them up into little bits. And then we're going to save this glaze that we've canned our apples in. This is not pie filling. This is actually our recipe for canned apples in a brown sugar cinnamon glaze. You can find that on our YouTube. If you're on our Instagram and you want to know our YouTube, you type in youtube.com/ @the Appalachian Homestead. Okay, I think I got them all. So I'm going to save this glaze because I'll drizzle the glaze over by the spoonful to whatever taste I like. Okay, let me get this out of the way. Then we'll come back in just a minute and work on all the other things. If you want this right here, I got from 5E Farms. Love this thing. It makes opening your jar so much better. You don't lose all your lids that way. And I'm also not advising you to break the rules. I'm just telling you why I like that lid lifter. So you can take that or leave that, whatever you want to do with it. I can't see your comments this second. So if you're asking a question and you're on Instagram, I would really appreciate it if you would go down to the little bubble beside where you put comments. And if you look beside that little bubble where you put comments, there is a bubble that's a circle with a question mark in it. And if you hit that and type in your question, it doesn't get lost in the feed. I do try to scroll up when I am going back through the comments and stuff, but I always miss somebody and I hate it. So if you'll use that little bubble, that'd be really helpful to me to be able to find you. Okay, so we're just slicing up all of our apples. And again, this home canned apple recipe is not pie filling, but we do use it for pie filling. It has no thickeners added to it in the jar. What we do to make pie filling with this is we dump it out in a bowl and add a couple tablespoons of cornstarch, and then we put it in our pie crust, and it makes a perfectly thick pie filling. Okay, got my apples done. Now it's time to do the real stuff. So to my bowl, I'm going to use oat milk. You can use whole milk. You can use skim milk. You can use whatever milk you want. This was 2 cups. Next up, I'm going to add 4 cups of water and a pinch of salt. And I'm going to turn my gas on because I'm going to bring this to a simmer. just going to add a pinch of salt to this. Anytime you're making something sweet, if you add a pinch of salt to it, it is always better and sweeter. So while we wait on this to come to a simmer, I'm going to check first YouTube for chat, and then I'll go back and check here on Instagram and try to make sure I don't miss anybody. But again, if I do, I'm sorry, and you can always DM me anything that you'd like to talk about. Tell me about that wooden spoon you opened the jar with. That's from 5V Farms. Jennifer's, it's at 5_V_farms. I'm pretty sure, but it's Jennifer at 5V Farms. If you go on my page and you click the people that I'm following and type in the word 5, you'll find her very easily. How do I keep my cutting board? We wash it every time we use it. And I have a really good husband who takes care of making sure that they're, you know, oiled and things like that. That wooden spoon you guys are talking about, which I'm going to bring back over here, this one, I actually got this from the Rooted Market, and I love it. It's a mammal spoon. It's one of my favorites. Okay, and we do use, you know, we wash it and then we oil it to keep them looking nice. You can scroll down through here and make sure. So I'm making a Farro pudding, Farrow, Eamer, whatever you'd like to call it. And the wild grain, the grain was actually grown out in Wyoming. This is going to be a dessert for tonight, and it's also going to be leftover and be breakfast for the morning because we have a really early morning tomorrow. Okay. Hit the button. It is, it's not a Le Creuset. It's one that my mother-in-law gave me. I have no idea what brand it is, but it's one from my mother-in-law. Sorry, if I knew, I would tell you. And when we wash it, I will tell you. But she got it, I think, from her friend's mother. So this is just an old, enameled Dutch oven. We're not fancy around here. We have all kinds of hand-me-downs. Okay, I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit to a 6 because I want to bring this to the boil. So to this milk mixture, I'm going to go ahead and add, this is homemade vanilla. I swear, y'all, if you're not using our homemade vanilla recipe, it is made, instead of being made with vodka, it's made with, I'm going to put about two teaspoons in there. It's made with, not whiskey. Why is bourbon? What's my speech leaves me sometimes, guys. It's made with bourbon, but it's my favorite. And you can see it's actually still got the beans in it. And it is so good. So I just want to bring this to a simmer. Now, something that you guys did not see that I need to tell you. This is Farro, also called Eamer, Pharaoh, however you like to say it. It's a whole grain, you can see. You have to rinse it because there is always, no matter where you get it, whether you get it from the farm in Wyoming or you get it from a store, there's always dust in this. So you rinse it just like you should rinse your rice. Rice, you rinse it to rinse off some of those external starches. And this one, you're rinsing off dust and, little bits that are left over from, that didn't get winnowed out, we'll say. So be sure that you do rinse it. I rinse it for a good minute. And then I set it over a bowl and I set it aside. To turn off commenting, I think you slide it to the right. If I'm not wrong. It could be slide it to the left, but you slide it to one side or the other. Okay. So I'm just waiting on this to come. So in this was 2 cups of oat milk. You can use whole milk, you can use skim milk, you can use any milk you want. So 2 cups of milk, 4 cups of water. I'm going to add the apples after it comes to a simmer and the grains after it comes to a simmer. And I'm also going to add brown sugar, and I already added the vanilla and a teaspoon of cinnamon. So Farro, you can, it's not like oatmeal and it's not like grits, but it does make a really creamy, similar to oatmeal porridge, but it's better. It's hard for me to describe it to you. Let me take my knife over here. Okay, we're almost to the simmer. I'm going to add the apples. And that's going to cool it down for a second again. So that's the reason I'm adding those first, because they came straight out of my pantry. So they're a little bit cool. And I don't want to wait until the grains are in there to do that. I want to do this now and get these warm and then add the grains. Had to get the apples off my hands, guys. Okay, so now I'm going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon, and about 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar. Sorry, I had to grab my brown sugar and my measuring cup, guys. Now you can use light brown or dark brown. Do it to your own personal liking. Oh no. Well, my brown sugar is lumpy, so I'm going to do it by side. You can also, if you don't want to use brown sugar, use maple syrup. It'll take a good amount. I can't exactly tell you how much maple syrup, so you'll have to do that to taste. And you can add it afterwards if you prefer. My brown sugar keepers failed me. So I have 2 terracotta brown sugar keepers that are supposed to keep my brown sugar from turning into a rock, but here we are. There we go. All right, that's about 2/3 a cup. Okay, so I'm going to stir this. And remember, my apples are already in there. And my brown sugar has now melted, and I'm going to taste it. Perfect. Now, I'm going to add the Pharaoh. Now, it looks like a lot of liquid, I know. It also, remember, when you make grits, it's kind of the same. But I'm going to bring this to the boil, and then I'm going to cover it and reduce the heat to medium low because I want to keep it at a very low boil or a good hard simmer for about 25 or 30 minutes. Then I will remove the lid and allow it to cook another probably 5 minutes. And it will thicken up kind of just like oatmeal does and become a really thick Farro pudding. And it'll be a cinnamon brown sugar apple Farro pudding. And again, you know, the sweetness is to your liking. I prefer mine to be like a medium sweetness. You may want yours more sweet or less sweet. That's entirely up to you. If you decide to use honey or maple syrup, I would wait until the 25 minutes of boiling is over and then take the lid off and add my syrup or my honey. Don't do raw honey, because if you're doing raw honey and then you heat it to the simmer, you're killing all of the beneficial things that are in raw honey. So you're pasteurizing it basically. So if you're going to use honey, use already pasteurized honey. Don't waste your good raw honey on this. And I'm just stirring until we get it to a boil. And then I'm going to add my lid to it. And I'm going to go off of live because you guys don't want to look at the lid of a pot for 25 or 30 minutes while it boils. I'm sure. That would not be very fun. So if you have questions. So I'm making, somebody asked what I'm making over here on Instagram. I'm making an apple cinnamon farro pudding, Eamer pudding, using wild grains, or not wild, I'm sorry, cultivated grains, using farro grown in Wyoming. Let me make sure I don't miss anybody else. And if you wanted to, you could add butter to this at this point. I prefer to add the butter at the end once it's thick and I put it in my bowl. Full disclosure, I also add butter to my oatmeal. I'm a little piggy, y'all. So I'm just going to get this to the boil. And then my lid is going to go on. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anybody's comments. Where can you find the recipe? You can find it here on this live. And I will share it once we go off, and you'll be able to rewatch it and see each part of it and make it along with me. Let me make sure I don't miss any comments on YouTube. Okay. Nobody's waiting over there. So for this was 2 cups of farro. It was 2 cups of milk, 4 cups of water, a pinch of salt, 2/3 a cup of brown sugar, a pint of our home canned apples that I sliced so that they would be smaller bits. See? Now I'm at the boil. Let me turn down the heat because I don't want to boil it over. Just want it to come to a good hard simmer. And then I'm going to put the lid on, go off a live, share the live so that you guys can have this recipe and you can make it along with me. Okay, so you see this speed of bubble right here is what I'm looking for. I want that speed covered for 25 minutes. All right, so now I'm going to put the lid on. And I'm going to go off of live, and I will type the measurements into the caption of this post. And I will share a picture of it in our stories once it's done in about 25 or 30 minutes. All right, we will catch you guys on the flip side. Be sure to like, share, comment, do all the things. Follow us if you're not already following us. Follow us on YouTube if you are only following us on Instagram. To get to our YouTube, it is youtube.com/@the Appalachian Homestead. Okay, we'll catch you guys later. Look for the recipe in the caption.